Hi everybody, Bob Zima, frequent flyer to hell and back with you for another YouTube chat. Don't you just love the YouTube chats? Speaking of chats, when you have to communicate with somebody, I want you to start thinking about the healthy, effective communication continuum of tell, inform, ask. You see, when we have an idea, when there's something we'd like to do, and we need to talk to somebody else about it, perhaps we need their permission. Perhaps we want to include them in the activity. Perhaps we just want to bring them up to speed on what we're thinking. We can often feel anxious. We can often feel depressed. Because if we go to somebody who's important to us, our spouse, our boss, employees that work for us, maybe our children, our family, our friends, when that relationship is important to you, when you want to maintain that relationship, when you want to keep that relationship going, yet you want to do something, you want to be active, you want to engage in some kind of activity, and you want to bring that up, sometimes we feel we already in our head jump the gun and assume they're going to say, no, we're not going to do that. No, I don't want to do that. No, you can't do that. No, 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 no. And we assume that they're going to say no, even before we've started the communication process. And that assumption of no in our head creates anxiety, creates depression, and fear and pain and sadness. Yuck! Who wants to deal with it? But before we even ask, we start to feel those things. We start to presume they're going to say no. So what do? Well, I'm going to show you. I'm going to tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to this hockey game. I'm watching this hockey game with these people at this place. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And what do? We come across as a bully. We come across as power hungry. The other person feels immediately threatened because we're coming in at such a high level, because we're going to tell somebody what we're going to do. Because in our minds, we've already anticipated, we've already predicted they're going to say no. They're going to squash the idea. And so we come into it already anxious, already depressed, already elevated emotionally, and already elevated behaviorally. And we tell people what we're going to do. That creates defensive-ness. That leads to ineffective and unhealthy communication. The other side of the equation, and sometimes we bounce to the other side, we over-course correct because we didn't like the tension that was created when we told someone what we're going to do. So then what do? We come with hat in hand. We come taking a one down. We come being very polite. And we ask, hey, would you mind if? Hey, what do you think about? Hey, why don't we? We ask because you feel asking is more polite. Asking is more likely going to get you what you want. But then what do you learn? It doesn't! Because the minute you ask someone something, they have all the authority. They have all the power. They get to choose. There is no negotiation. When, you say to your wife, hey, what do you want for dinner? And she says chicken. And you really want pizza. Well, the problem is you've already set the table for chicken because you've asked. But then if you pull back and go, well, I don't really want chicken, I want a pizza, then the tension begins again. So when you tell somebody, you bully them, ineffective, unhealthy tension. When you ask, you give up control, you give up your autonomy, you give up ability to negotiate, to compromise. When you ask, so what happens? It's ineffective, it's unhealthy, it leads to tension. So what's the middle ground? Informing. So when you need to communicate with someone, when you need to negotiate, when you need to compromise, don't tell, don't ask, inform. Hey, honey, let's thinking about pizza tonight. Simple as that. What does your wife get a chance to do? Not really up for pizza. How about chicken? Not really up for chicken, but what if we go to a place that serves both? Now you're both happy. Because when you inform, you give room to the other person to maneuver, to respond. You create space for that communication. When you tell somebody, you bully them. You threaten them. Tensions rise. When you ask, you lose all control, all power, any chance for compromise, any chance for negotiation. And that leads to negative ugh. But when you inform, you take ownership of what you want. You give space to the other person to respond. You give space for communication, collaboration, compromise, negotiation. And those are all things that lead to healthy, effective behaviors, which then lead to healthy and effective relationships. Just something to think about.